Today's episode was suggested by one of my subscribers, Terry7907. Thanks, Terry. I do look at your comments in the comment sections, and if you have suggestions for a game for me to review or questions about any of the games or battles or things that I've been posting, please write those in the comment section and I will reply. And it gives me then suggestions and ideas for future episodes. So thanks everybody, and thanks Terry for the French pronunciations suggestions as well as the game suggestion. Thank you. As the playthrough had demonstrated, when we have a battle, that is when a group of units moves into a place occupied by the opposing force, it's time to have a battle. And with that, we go to the play cards, the battle or combat cards, and go through how that works. So I'll quickly review all of that, and we'll get into some of the nitty-gritty with how the cards are. So the key component is the number of combat cards you get is depending on which formations are present and if there is a leader present as well. So in our example, we have the First Corps and the Reserve and the Duke of Wellington, all basically on the Allied side. That's going to add up to 9 cards. If they had the full British Army there, you would end up having looks like 15 cards for them to play. Now moving down to the French, we've got the First, Second, and Third Corps. That's going to give them 8 cards in their hand. And the other thing that's a factor in this is as the Corps lose cohesion points, if they get to a tipping point, usually 50% casualties, they will then have a reduced number of cards that they have available. So the more forces you have and the better shape they're in means the more cards you have available in your deck when it comes to combat. Now, in the game itself, we have 6 cards that are part of the combat card deck. And in that deck, there are 12 cavalry charge cards, there are 12 grand battery cards, 12 infantry assault cards, 12 skirmish cards, 10 counterattack cards, and 10 combined arms cards. And each of these cards is basically countered by one of its own cards or by the combined arms card. So the combined arms card will match any of these. So if the attacker plays, for example, the cavalry charge, the defender can either counter it with his own cavalry charge card or with a combined arms card. So the combined arm card will counter anything, and if you don't have one of those or you don't want to use one of those, then you're going to place whatever the matching card is to counter the one that the opponent placed on you. And this kind of fits with what you would expect in a Napoleonic battle. So, for example, if you are charged by your opponent, you would use your cavalry to countercharge or to reaction charge to block their charge. If there's artillery fire happening, you might counter that then with counter battery fire. Of course, infantry are going to fight against infantry. Skirmishers fight well against skirmishers. And then here's our counterattack card, which could be countered by a counterattack or combined arms. The combined arms kind of encapsulates the best concepts of the Napoleonic tactical wheel, so to speak, during this time, where using a combination of cavalry, infantry, and artillery, you would be more successful than if you just used one of these elements. Now, some of the cards have a particular special activity as well, or a special modifier. So, for example, with a cavalry charge, if the attacker plays this and it is the winning card, that is, the defender is not able to match it with either a cavalry charge card or a combined arms card, the defender is going to take an additional loss. So this would be one that you might play at the beginning of a battle round if you expect your opponent's going to try to break away and leave. You want to try to ding him another cohesion point loss before they escape. With the skirmish card, it's similar, but it's kind of the opposite. If this is the winning card, the defender is going to lose one less combat cohesion loss than they would otherwise do. So maybe you would play this if you wanted to give your opponent an excuse to leave the battle early. Maybe you want to try to entice them to leave. This might be the card that you'd want to play. The other card that has a special ability is the counterattack card. So if you play this counterattack card and then your opponent, the defender, matches it with a counterattack card of their own, the defender now becomes the attacker in the next round. So unlike normal procedures where they would have to roll their initiative rating to switch from being the defender to the attacker, using successful play of a counterattack card against the attacker's counterattack card will automatically propel them into the attacker position. So that might be one that you would play at the very end if you don't have any, if you know that your opponent's out of cards or almost out of cards. It would kind of force him to then become the attacker. And if the attacker doesn't have any cards to play, they automatically lose. So that might be one thing to do. Otherwise, unless you have you're out of everything else, this card here might be the last one that you'd want to play, just so that you didn't give your opponent a chance to switch over and become the attacker. Now, if we want to think about how the card play usually works, you're going to have a random assortment of cards based on the number of cards you're allowed to draw based on the formations and their status at the battlefield at that time. And depending on what you have, you're going to try to do your best to counter your opponent, or if you want to try to escape, you can always opt not to play a matching card and automatically lose the battle. You will take a loss for the retreat for each corps that has to retreat, and then you will take losses for how many battle rounds may have passed, plus or minus any additional damage that might be done here by, say, the cavalry charge or the skirmish card. Generally, the most versatile card you have is the combined arms card. This one will counter any of the other cards, and it can only be countered by another combined arms card itself. So this one's very good to keep in your deck as a way of countering, any potential attack. But it might be one that you could play on your opponent if you suspect that he does not have any combined arms cards or has run out of his combined arms cards as a way of ending the battle. So if it's been several rounds and you've seen that he's been playing combined arms cards to counter your cavalry charge or infantry, he might be running out of combined arms cards, in which case then dropping one as the attacker might finish him off. So just a couple of different ideas as far as strategies go for using these cards in face-to-face play.
I hope that you've enjoyed this series of videos. If so, please click on the like button. And if you'd like to continue to receive these, hit the subscribe button and ring that bell for future notifications. If you have suggestions for games I could play or ideas to discuss, please go ahead and make a note in the comment section, and I will respond to those personally. Thank you, and be well.